Now let's see what I did till now, then we will start to implement the logic that we need. Firstly, we are running my app as you can see, and here inside of my app we are returning material app. Inside of material app we have a landing page which is this one. If I open the application, you will see that we have a list, and inside of the list we have list tiles. And here we have a data that comes from Fake API. And I will show you how I fetch this data and place it inside of my page. Before starting to this main Dart, I would like to explain the block that I have created. Here you can see that inside of the body, we are providing post qubit. So if I go to my post qubit, and if I open this part, you will see that we have a method which gets the data from Fake API. So this method is fetch posts method. And after fetching the posts, we are emitting this inside a post loaded state. And if there is any error, we are emitting post error state. And let's go and find out what I did inside of fetch posts. Here, as you can see, we have an endpoint URL. I am using DO library to fetch this API. And here you can see that the method fetch posts returning list of post model. So what is post model here? If I go inside of this post model, you will see that we have some properties. First of all, we have a user ID, we have ID, title, and body. And we have also from JSON and to JSON methods. So these methods are essential, especially this from JSON, that is used to convert map of string dynamic to the post model. And we have to JSON method, which is also essential, but we are not going to use it in this lesson. That method is going to be used basically to convert post model to the map of string dynamic. And these two methods are just the reverse of each other. And also let me show you the response that we are getting from this API. So if I go to my browser, you will see that from this endpoint URL, we are getting this data. And the structure of it is like this. We have a list, and inside of the list, we have posts. Each post is going to be map of string dynamic. That's why we are creating the post model, which is going to be used to convert this map of string dynamic to the post model. And let's go to the method that I have created to fetch the posts. And here you can see that fetch posts is basically getting the response. And then if the status code is 200, we are converting this map of string dynamic to the post model. And from JSON method is going to be used for that purpose. Then we are storing this result as a list of post model, and then we are returning it. If the status code is not 200, which means we can have error, in this case, we are throwing an exception. We have to call this getPosts method before we render the content of this page. That's why if I go back to the main Dart, you will see that here block provider is used, and we are providing post qubit to the my block screen. And as you see, we are using two dots to fetch the data before this my block is rendered. And if I go to my block, you will see that we are using block builder because that's essential. When we emit a new state, we will basically render the content inside of it. If the emitted state is post-loaded, we will return list builder. If the state is post-error, we will just return centered text, which will show the error. And lastly, we have just the one state, which is post-initial. And in this case, we will return centered circular progress bar. If I go to the states that I have used, you will see that we have a post-initial, and we have post-loaded, and we have just the post-error. Now let's look at the list builder. List builder has item count, which is the length of the posts. And for each post, we are using list tile. And the list style has a trailing, and in this case, we are using the ID. Then we have a title, which is the title of the post, and also we have the subtitle, which is the body of the post. Now, what I want to achieve here is on top of this list style, and as you know, list styles are something we can actually click on. And it is like a button. And now if I click to this, you will see this splash effect. And in this case, I want to open a new page. That's why here I wrote this code. So now I can uncomment this. You will see that this navigator.push is basically pushing the new route, and this is post detail page. So if I go to the post detail, that's very simple page. You will see there is a scaffold, there is an app bar, and there is centered elevated button. Now, if I click to the list tile, you will see that new page is gonna be opened. And also, when I click to this, you will see that post detail 7. Also, for example, if I click to this one, you will see that post detail 15. That's because we are receiving the ID of the post right over here, and as a title of that bar, we are using this. And also we have an elevated button, and there's a text inside of it, do something. Now, instead of do something, I want to say delete this post. Or as you see, we have an ID, which we can use instead of this. We can use the delete post, and then we can use interpolation like this. Also, we can delete the constant and save the document. So now if I click to any of the list styles, you will see that delete post 5. If I click to the first one, it will say delete post 1. Now what I want to achieve here, when I click to this button, I want to delete the post from this page. That is very common if you are providing the qubit or block to any page, and inside of this page, if you are navigating to another screen, and when you want to control the state of this page from the new route, you will need to pass existing qubit instance. So we can achieve this by providing another qubit to this post detail. So we can use block provider here, but this time, instead of using post qubit, which we used before, as you see here, we are not going to use it like this, because that way we are going to create a new instance of the qubit. We need to create existing one. If we pass qubit instance that is used inside of the my block, in that case we can actually control the state of this my block page. So in order to do this, we are going to use block provider.value. And we are going to get error because there is no any property like this. There is value actually. So if we use value, we will not get the error. Another error comes from here because we cannot pass function to it. You can see that this is actually accepting the qubit, not a method. That's why we are going to delete this part. We will only provide the qubit. In order to use the existing qubit instance, we have to get the qubit instance from the context that we are in. Right now, we are inside of the my block, and we have to use the context right over here and have to get the instance inside of this context. That's why here we can say post qubit, and that's going to provide the existing one. And now we can manipulate the state of this my block page. In order to delete the post, first of all, we have to create a method inside of the post qubit. So here, I will create a method which is going to be like this, void delete post by ID. And here I will accept the parameter just like that. And after this, what I want to do, I want to get the posts that is inside of the state right now, and then change it in a way that we will delete the post by ID. So we can get the posts, and then there is a method which is called remove where. And from here, we can put a logic like this. We can say if the element ID equals to the ID that we are passing, in this case, delete the post from this list. After that, we have to emit a new state. But this state should be post-loaded. Here, I will emit post-loaded, just like this. And as you remember, this post-loaded state accepting the list of post model. And we can pass the post model right over here. Now my method is ready. We can go back to the main Dart. As you remember, inside of post detail, there's an elevated button. And when this button is pressed, we will call the method that we have created previously. So how can we get this method? We can again use the read, and we can get the post commit that we have passed inside of this page. And then we can access to the method that we have created, which is delete post by ID. As you remember, we already passed the ID of the post inside the post detail. So we can get this ID, just place it here. Now we are getting the error. An error says the argument type string can't be assigned to the parameter type integer. That's very correct because inside of delete post by ID method, we are actually accepting integer. But here, inside of the post detail, we are accepting string. So how can we correct that? Maybe we can change the type of the ID that we are receiving to the integer. In that case, the error inside of post detail will gone, but we will get another error. Here, inside of post detail, we are passing the ID as a string. So what we can do, we can actually delete this like that. Now that is going to pass the integer. We just need to use exclamation mark because the ID can be null. So we are saying that, okay, it can be null. We are already aware of it. And now there is no any error, which means I can actually restart the application. And if I click to any of the posts, for example, let's click to this one. And here we are getting another error. And I know it because if we go back to the navigator here inside of the list tile, we are pushing a new route. And inside of the builder, there is a automatically generated property, which is context. So this context is the context that will be provided for the post detail page. And basically, when we use context.read, that block provider is trying to access to this context. So the context that we are asking for is not this one. Because if we look at the build method, we have also another context. That's why if we don't want to get this context, we can use underscore. For example, if you want to use this context with any purpose, you can change the name of it. And in that case, the problem will be solved. Let's restart application. The posts are loaded as you see. Now, if I click to this one, there is no any error. And if I click to the delete post 10 button, then if I go back to this screen, you will see that the post with the ID of 10 is gone. Basically, it is deleted. And this way, if we go to any of the posts, for example, this one, and if I click to the delete post, and if you go back, you will see that the post is deleted. There is no any post like this.